Well, hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's been a real encouragement and joy to me to share these catalyst wedge painting lessons with you. And so I've kind of, to make it fun, we're going to call it Wedge Wednesday because it goes with the wedge tool, Wedge Wednesday. And today we are painting this painting right here, these pink flowers, really abstract, really loose, lots of fun. So if you like this style, stick around and watch my video, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Happy painting. So I've got out my paint, and this is a 14 by 14 canvas, and I've found this reference photo on Unsplash, and I thought that would be just a fun one to paint. So got my water here, and I'm just going to start off by kind of doodling some of those shapes in, and more looking at the composition of how it all goes. Oh yeah, before I get going, what I like to do is I like to use my iPad to put the reference on, and I like to make it a square so that it kind of fits my square canvas. So I'm just going to make it a square there. Now you can see will fit this canvas perfect. So I'm going to just sort of look at general shapes, and I'm just using this quinacridone magenta, and I'm just going to kind of doodle. So I'm just going to put in the general areas where the flower is going to go. It's hard for me to, obviously it's kind of hard for me to talk and paint sometimes. And this week, it's just been busy. I had a workshop on the weekend at the Scottsdale Artist School, and it was really busy. So there was a lot of nice people there, and it was a lot of fun. But I've just been trying to get back into it here. So there's some little pink shapes down there, and we got these three flowers. There's a little white flower and a pink one in the background here. I'm gonna just really keep those as, kind of simple blocks of kind of color almost for now. We'll figure it out as we go, but there's quite a few flowers, so some of them are just gonna be more almost just like really, really abstract shapes in the background. And with our catalyst wedge tool, we'll be able to sort of simplify it as we go. I got this fluorescent pink color that I thought was kind of fun, so I might try to draw a little bit of the flower in with some of that, just because, later on it might really show up. And that's that Liquitex fluorescent pink. Sometimes you just gotta play around with different things and see what inspires you, So there's a whole little bunch of flowers here. And then there's kind of one going off the page here. Going off the canvas. And this one's going off the canvas. So I want to just sort of make sure I'm happy with the composition and everything, and then I'll be able to kind of block in some of the larger areas. And then there's going to be some, who knows what going on out here. There's a bunch more little flower shapes over there. Okay, so now I think I'll block in like the first layer of pink. And where did I put that catalyst? I always end up putting it down somewhere, and then I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I think I'm gonna start off with just a base layer, and I'm gonna use, there it is. I'm going to use a little pile of this liquid glazing medium by Golden. gloss glazing liquid medium, and I can sort of spread. I just want to get this white layer like off there for the most part. I want to just kind of get rid of it, eliminate it a bit. So in the underpaint, I'm going to use burnt sienna and a little touch of sap green, just to sort of tone the canvas. And it'll help later when we add different shapes and colors and everything, that there's this sort of base layer that's nice and warm. And we can add some other colors to it too. So I've added a little bit of that quinacridone magenta to it. And so I'll show you my mixing. Some people don't like it, but I think it helps you as a painter kind of to see some of the mixes. Let me know in the comments what you think. I had someone write me and say that they really didn't need me mixing the colors. So let me know what you think. And it's really fun putting the paint down with this spatula tool here. And you can still see my drawing underneath there. And that'll just help later. I'm gonna kind of leave where the flowers were drawn on. But this will also help me kind of also see like if my composition's the way I wanted it and everything. Because I'll be able to kind of see where maybe I missed an area that I should have blocked in darker so that later it looks better. And once you get this down, you can really start to see, okay, am I gonna like where I put those flowers? And are they big enough? And I wanna leave, when I paint with, you know, acrylic or even oil, and I paint something that's gonna be light pink, I really wanna have something dark around it so that it really shows. It's just so fun using this tool, and you know, already it just makes such enjoyable marks. Just watching it go on is really fun. Okay, so I'm just gonna continue blocking in, and I'll start putting in some pinks as well. So I'm gonna add just some of that light pink Liquitex Basics color that I have. And let's see if I can show you here. I'm mixing some of this light pink in with some of that quinacridone and kind of whatever's on my spatula. So then I'm going to go and sort of put in just some of those petals, you know, just get that warm kind of pinky color in there and sort of block in these shapes and make sure, you know, we get the right kind of size that you want the flower to be before you go get too detailed. So we're just having fun putting down these marks, and I'm just gonna add a little more for these ones up here. I added a little bit of white so it's a little less bright. And I just love the expressiveness that when these brush strokes go on, it's just so fun to see how it just kind of goes down there. Just mixing up a little bit of more of a purpley pink for the ones in the distance that I'm going to kind of put in. So I put in a little bit of cobalt blue, quinacridone, magenta, and some of that white, just to get sort of a more purpley pink. It'll make those ones look further away. So I see them kind of looking, the one that's behind the other flower is a little more of that purple. Put a few of those marks in here, just little shapes of these flowers, sort of in that same color. And then I'll kind of go back and add some more. And then over here, this is going to be a real pink, and then these also are sort of that purpley pink. So I'm going to block in. Those are all kind of really abstract in my mind, because they're just sort of in the background as really just shapes of color, kind of this pinky purple, cooler color, and lighter pink. So I'm just going to block those in too. Then as we get into this little area that's more in the like foreground, these flowers that kind of come around here, I'm going to go and add more of that quinacridone and pink. Kind of just mix up something a little bit back to that original color. That's just some of that light pink that I had on there. Doesn't matter too much yet, you know, how perfect you get the color. I had some of that purpley pink in there, so I thought I'll put some of that in, because I see some, you know, some of those shadows are sort of that purpley pink, so put a few of those abstract marks there to show that. And remember, you can use this catalyst wedge to kind of scrape away, so I can kind of even go back and kind of redraw some of it like that. So you see I'm sort of building that shape a little, even though I'm probably jumping the gun a little. But now I'm just going to keep blocking with that more purple color down here, some of these marks here. And that was just a little cobalt blue and some of that quinacridone magenta and some white. And then I'm going to finish off this last little area here. Just keep going. Just kind of looking around. It's hard to get those flowers at the bottom of the canvas. Lucky it's an abstract painting. Okay, and then get that in a bit better. Use a little quinacridone. Kind of has a little bit of that in the shadow, so. And then I'm going to use some of that quinacridone. I see some real vivid pink flowers sort of in the foreground, so I'll just put drift a few of those marks in there just to kind of give it the effect of something really going on. Some floral-like brush strokes there. And I'll do the same up in the corner here. There's some little flowers kind of that are darker pink. And I'm just giving some texture of more flowers up in there. There's a few darker ones in here. And I use the edge to you can kind of scratch off some of it and just play around almost like it's real impasto-like shapes. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. I will go and I want to get the center in, so I'm going to take some of that sap green and a little sap and a little bit of that burnt sienna, and to start putting some of those darker centers in. Kind of have to know where the centers are so that you can kind of build from there the flower. I'm going to put in the center one here. And there's this one here. And the center there. And there's kind of one here. And there's a few kind of little, you can just kind of put some real kind of gentle impressionist marks so your eye isn't going to be drawn to those ones as much, so. Okay, now I have to wipe off this palette knife, and I'm going to clean off you can kind of clean your palette off, scrape it with this thing, and then wipe your palette knife off so you get a new kind of area to mix paint. I'm gonna get some white, and I've got out some primary red, and white and primary red make a nice kind of pinky red color. And then we got these light pinks here that are already straight out of the bottle mixed up like that. So I'm going to mix up a few different colors. I want to mix up something kind of dark pink, pinky blue for the shadow that goes around the main flower here. So I'll kind of put in a few of those shadow marks. I'm just gonna do it really kind of quick and easy here. We want it to look real loose and free, so we don't want to get too into the details, but I'm just putting a few of those in. Like that, because we're gonna add some highlights too, so you kind of need it to really go inwards a bit. Just sort of mixing in. There's some darker pinky red colors. I'm just getting those into some of these flowers so that there's some variety now. That one's kind of in the shade, so I'm gonna Give that a little bit of a darker color. Okay, and then I'm gonna clean off my little wedge again, and I'm gonna start adding some of the bright pinks, the lighter pinks again. So I'm just using that corner of the catalyst tool, and I'm looking at some of these lighter, you know, parts of the flower, and I'm gonna add some of those in, and not gonna worry about it being perfect. That's the key. And I'm gonna go over here, put in some of those lighter moments there. Okay, I'm gonna go and just keep working on that. I like all the pink in this painting. We're also looking, you know, in this one, you kind of have to follow a pattern of light, you know, to get it right as well. Because you got to look at where, okay, there's all this light flowers up here. You kind of follow it a little through the painting. This side will be in the shadow. The other side will be in the light. So this is more shadow, and this side's going to be more. Jack! Jack! Dad's here! Yeah! I'll add a little bit of light to the side of this one. Just sort of mixing in a little white with that pink. And sort of add some little highlights to that one. And I can blend it a little. And put some highlights in the background. I really like this area, funnily enough, where it's kind of really abstract there. Okay. So far I really like that. And now I'm going to go back and sort of really build these little, kind of like a little cone of in the center, and I'll add some blue in the shadow of that, and just for fun, and I'll add some more of that burnt sienna. And this one's kind of gonna have some yellow, more yellow in it, and then I'll maybe do one here that's a little more pronounced, and then now I can go and add some of those little yellow things on. So there's these little kind of little seed thingies. I'll just use the edge of my wedge tool and just sort of dab those in. And that's just some cad yellow light. Or actually, you know, I think that's, yeah, that's cad yellow light. And then I'm going to work this into the center here. And it just adds a lot of fun to the painting, these bright colors, and then you got that bright yellow in the center. And now I can add some sap green. I just want to fill in some of this area here that's got a lot of green in it. Just kind of using the edge to put in a few little small marks in between these flowers. And you could put a few stems coming across just to add some interesting lines to the design. And then up here, same thing, I'm going to add some of that green. Just sort of put it in there, you know. Back here, we're, you know, we see that there's flowers, but they don't need to be perfect. So we're just kind of working that in, and there's gonna be, I think there's a little white flower up there, so I'll leave a spot for that. One of the things I like about putting in the background is that, especially when I'm working with, even with more so, it's easier with a brush, but if you just drag some of that green into the flower too, and you know, cut that background back in, it can look really painterly. Cut in some of these petals, just sort of have more, they're not so round, so I had to kind of loosen that up a little. And there's some more over here. Just sort of keep going on that. That one looks really cool. I like that. So you can see there's some kind of happy accidents that happen. You got the little bits of some of the petal mixes in with the background. You could even drag a bit of that in, but that was just really cool. I like the way those little bits of paint kind of sometimes get mixed in. And I'm just gonna keep blocking in the background a little more. And that's just some Liquitex basic sap green. And then I want to add that little white flower up there. So I'm just going to mix some of that white right into that, you know, white, burnt sienna, and sap green mixture, just to get something that's not your bright white, just sort of a warm grayish color. And then you can add your brighter whites to it. But you just want to put that down. And I kind of like that white, having a little white flower in there just for variety. So I'm going to put a few marks, like as if there's a few abstract-y kind of white flowers in the background. I just kind of like the way it adds to the otherwise it's kind of all pink, so I kind of like that little bit of balance. And I'm gonna go now and get some white. Just make sure your palette knife or your catalyst wedge is clean. I'm actually I'll try applying it with some, we haven't done a lot of palette knife, so I'm gonna add a little bit of this light blue to the white, this kind of light blue color I got. I want to add a little bit of that to the daisies. And I'll use the palette knife and kind of get a little bit of that in there, because it's kind of hard for me to get the highlight on with that catalyst wedge tool up in there. It's a little tight, so put some little marks that kind of look like a daisy. Just some real fun abstract marks that kind of show that it's a daisy. And then I'm going to get a bunch of that white and add it to the pink mixture and get some real bright highlights. And I'm going to use the palette knife to get in some more detail. And this flower is in front of the other flowers, so I gotta kind of get a little bit of that detail in, but don't go overboard with the detail. So, and I'm gonna kind of put in a few more highlights on that one. Okay, and then I want to mix up, I can use this, this is some right out of the tube, this light green. It's called light olive green. So I'm gonna just put a few, there's some really nice stems there, and I gotta kind of move this off of here a little because I can't get the stems on there, but I'm gonna, if that's in the way, so I'll just take it off, and I'm just gonna put a few just a few random green stems. There's kind of some in the, you can see them in the reference photo. And just have fun adding a few of those little kind of, you know, just adds a little bit of something different in the painting to have some of those little stem lines going through. Adds a little bit of a dynamic feel to it. So if you like this video and you're enjoying what you see, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Really helps my channel grow, and I try to put out a new Catalyst wedge painting every Wednesday. So if you subscribe, you'll get notifications when I go live. And it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of videos on this channel, and I also have a Patreon channel where there's lots more birds, flowers, and everything that you can paint. I'm gonna add a little cobalt blue just here and there using this palette knife. I'm just gonna kind of put in a few little dabs of that cobalt blue to go with the rest of the painting, and kind of gives it balance to all the pink and everything. Add a few more little pink flowers up here. And add a little bit more pink over here. And I'm just going to go and add a little bit of this green somewhere in here. There needs to be sort of a little carry through to the rest of it. Okay, and just going to add a little bit more of that quinacridone magenta and into that original kind of pink mix. And I just want to add a little bit of that in there. Okay. Just gonna mix some yellow and red up and add a little bit of that kind of orangey color to some of these centers that are in the shadow area more. Well, this is a very abstract pink flower painting, and it's we did it, you know, all mostly with the Catalyst wedge, but also with this palette knife. And so I hope you like this lesson. It's a lot of fun to do this.